Well. Looks like the whole crypto market is about to explode, and it looks like generational wealth could possibly be made. I think this is going to be the biggest bull run in crypto by far for many reasons. But let's start at the top. Before I do, just quick reminder, hit that sub button and give your like button a little tap-tap-a-roo. Now, throughout this video, I'll be mostly referencing Bitcoin when talking about crypto. And the reason for that is because Bitcoin is the big daddy, right? Bitcoin is the papa. Everything follows Bitcoin. What I mean by that is in the world of crypto, all the moves of the altcoins are based off what the big daddy is doing or what Bitcoin is doing. And I also want to make sure you understand return on investments when it comes to the crypto space. Bitcoin is typically going to get you your smallest returns. And we're at least talking short-term gains, right? Where we buy and we have an exit plan. For the long term, it may be different. But I'm just talking short-term here to make sure we're on the same page. So let's say that Bitcoin returns a 3x this bull run. To make the numbers easy, we'll say Bitcoin is at $50,000 even right now, even though at the time I'm shooting this video, it is above there. It's around 57,000. So if Bitcoin 3x's to $150,000, that means any altcoin under it is going to do more, right? It's going to do much more than 3x. And of course, we're just assuming this isn't some outdated project or shit coin or some coin that pumped a whole bunch last cycle that's not going to do much this cycle. Typically, most coins are going to do more than the 3x of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin 3x's, then Ethereum and other coins in the top 10 market cap will likely 5x or a little more. Then many coins in the 10 to 50 spots for market cap could do like 5 to 10x range or more in this bull run. Then of course coins in the 50 to 100 spot could do 5 to 15x or more in this bull run. Then you got the small cap coins which can do 100x, even 1000x plus. But of course, on the opposite end of the spectrum is the fact that if Bitcoin goes down, altcoins follow it. Now, if Bitcoin goes down 10%, Ethereum and other top 10 coins may go down 15, 20%, whereas the really low cap coins may go down 80, 90%, right, if Bitcoin drops a good bit. So there's always that opposite end as well to understand when it comes to the return on investment. Now, I'm just giving basic numbers, right, to explain how the crypto world works as far as pricing goes and everything following Bitcoin. It could be a whole lot more, a whole lot less, considering there's a lot of factors at play this cycle that weren't in play in previous cycles. But generally, that is how it works, right? Bitcoin is the least risky out of all of them, so you get the least return on it overall. And then the lower the market cap, the more you can make or lose. And now that we understand that, I want to talk about why the crypto world is about to explode this bull run. So, number one, if you're living under a rock, the Bitcoin ETF was recently approved in January. And the institutions are buying a load of Bitcoin. And I'm talking like a whole lot more Bitcoin than is being mined per day. At the time I'm shooting this last week, the ETFs had 12,000 Bitcoin inflows. Miners only mined 6,300 Bitcoin. And what's crazy is this number is going to be soon cut in half, where they're only going to be mining 3,150 Bitcoin per week. And I'll explain all of that in just a second. And again, I'm only talking about the ETF purchases. We aren't even talking about other buys here. Just the ETF purchases are essentially doubling what's being mined in Bitcoin right now, which, by the way, is about to be cut in half, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But while we're on the topic of supply, it's important that you understand that there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever. Okay, so it is finite. It's not infinite like the dollar and like fiat currencies. There is a certain amount where there is a cutoff. There is a finite supply. And keep in mind, the Bitcoin has to be mined, right? It's not like it just comes out of nowhere. Each day, right now, as I was mentioning before, there are about 900 Bitcoin mined each day. Hence how there was 6,300 Bitcoin mined last week. That's 900 per day times 7 days a week. That equals 6,300 Bitcoin in 1 week. And again, the amount being bought is far beyond that. And I just talked about the ETFs buying about 12,000 inflow last week. You add in everything else and it's way beyond that. But get this, as I was just talking about, the halving is coming up in April of 2024. The halving happens every 4 years with Bitcoin, and the amount of Bitcoin that miners receive gets cut in half. So that 900 Bitcoin per day, which is getting gobbled up like hotcakes right now, is about to turn to 450 per day. So 450 per day times 7 days in a week totals 3,150 Bitcoin per week. This is the number that I mentioned earlier, of course. And now you should understand the halving and how the supply is going to get cut down in April 2024. That means there is a major supply shock coming. I mean, just think about it, right? If we are just talking about ETF purchases alone, not even including other investors, and they're buying, let's even keep it low, let's say they're buying about 10,000 Bitcoin a week. That's a low number, right? Considering they just bought 12,000 last week, or the inflow is 12,000. How is 3,150 Bitcoin going to cut it? The simple answer, it's not. And it doesn't take a genius to understand what happens during a supply shock. But I'll tell you just in case, because you never know, the price goes up. Obviously, it's the opposite when going the other way. If the demand isn't there, you have too much supply, well, the prices have to go down. But Bitcoin is seeing the complete opposite right now, with a major amount more being bought than is available. And the interesting part is that if you take a look at Google Trends right now, retail isn't anywhere to be found. They have no idea what's going on yet. Searches for Bitcoin are near like bear market levels. This means that the retail sector has not even started taking notice yet. And this is huge. Now, the ETF approval was big just based on the fact of trust alone, right? Just based on the trust factor. The approval officially makes Bitcoin a trusted asset, and that gives people confidence in it. So that alone, just the approval alone, was very bullish by itself. But the fact that the ETF is likely going to break all the records and be the most successful ETF of all time is just the icing on the cake. And it's absolutely amazing that the general public generally has no idea about this. Actually, no, it's not. Because likely what's going on is these large institutions are doing their part to make sure that it's not something that is widely covered in the news. They don't want people knowing about it yet. They want to keep grabbing as much Bitcoin as they can for as cheap as possible. And with retail on the sidelines, it's a lot easier. Now, when you start hearing about Bitcoin everywhere, where it's all over the news, everyone's talking about it, it's probably getting close to sell time. I've been telling my friends and my family about this for many months now. I've been trying to help them understand that even without the ETF, Bitcoin goes in cycles. And typically, the best time to buy in these cycles is 6 months before the halving, and then the best time to sell is about 18 months after the halving. And the reason that the halving is usually the catalyst is because the supply gets cut in half. Less supply, higher prices. That's how economics works. Well, with all this, add in the ETF approval. And not just any ETF approval, but what's looking like the most successful ETF ever. It isn't just retail that is going to be pushing this bull market like all the past bull runs. Now, we have institutions involved. Bitcoin is being bought at a pace far exceeding anything else in history. And no one is talking about it. I'm going to tell you this right now. You have to do your own research, and you have to make your own investment decisions. I'm not your financial advisor, but I am advising you, do your research now. This could possibly be like one of the biggest investment opportunities we have ever seen. It is really like the perfect storm. And if you're brand new to crypto, you may just want to stick to Bitcoin and maybe some of the other top altcoins, which are pretty safe. I'm talking about coins like Ethereum, you got Polkadot, Chainlink, Avalanche, Polygon. All those are super safe projects that are in the top 15. Now, if you want to venture some into the top 50, some good choices could be things like Immutable X, you got Near Protocol, you got Filecoin, Kaspa, Tau, VeChain, Injective, Render, The Graph. Those are all some pretty good picks within the top 50. And I personally think many of those will actually 10 to 20x this bull run. Could be less, but it also could be a lot more with all these institutions involved. The truth is, since we've never seen institutions involved, we don't know what's going to happen fully. Things could go much higher than anyone is anticipating, especially because of the amount being bought and steadily being bought. I just look at the crypto space and I see extremely high reward for a lower risk now that the ETF has been approved. I mean, just look, let's think about it. If the largest institutions are buying loads of Bitcoin, do you really think the price is going to crash? From an economic standpoint, that doesn't make sense. But from a power standpoint, it makes even less sense. These institutions know exactly what they are doing, and they wouldn't be buying the way they are if prices were just going to drop anytime soon. And trust me, they have a lot of pull and have a large part in the manipulation of the markets. Now, my personal plan when it comes to crypto is I've been buying over the last few months, over the past 3-4 months or so. And I still believe that buying now is fine. I think you're still somewhat early. But you likely only have about another 2 to 4 months or so of buying before things start to really explode. I'm expecting things to keep moving up until right before the halving, where we may see a little correction right before the halving in April. Then, shortly after the halving, things will likely start to explode, and it will most likely be large gains for about 12 months or so. And I'll start slowly pooling profits once Bitcoin hits in like the 80 to 90,000 level. And of course, I'll start pooling more and more profits as, more Bitcoin news comes about and I hear more normal people starting to talk about Bitcoin. That's when I start pulling more and more profits. Just don't make the mistake that most beginners make and just keep trying to ride that wave forever, which is, it's based off the emotion fear, or greed, I should say, where you get so greedy and you keep seeing your number increase in your portfolio and you just want it to go higher and higher, where eventually it hits a point where it starts crashing and it comes down 20%, right? Then after that 20%, you're like, man, I just had $1 million in my account, now it's on 800. I just want to get it back up to $1 million, but then it crashes another 30. You're down to 500. You're like, oh man, I had $1 million, I only had 500,000. I'm just going to wait out, just make that get up back to 800. Then it drops to under 30%, and you're in a bear market, and you're at your investment level or even below. So don't make that mistake beginners do and get too greedy. Start taking out profits about 10 to 20% after the all-time high is hit. And as you start hearing a lot about crypto in the news and from general people, that's when we start pulling profit, because as general retail gets in and starts FOMOing in, that's usually when the rug gets pulled out and the institutions take all the profit. So you want to make sure you're pulling profits slowly on the way up. So there's a saying that I say, and it is, you need to pull profits or you're going to be the profit. All right, so good luck. Comment if you have any questions at all. And don't forget to hit that sub button. If you like the crypto specific content, let us know and we can keep it coming.